everyone, and welcome to podcast number 4 on my knitting channel, Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgeniya. I'm a Ukrainian knitter living in the northern Spain. In this episode, I'm as usually going to show you my finished work, my work in progress, and the acquisition. I have to show you t-shirt, socks, and a very cute gift knit. I have 2 works in progress, and I got some of the Korean yarn that I was dreaming for. I'm going to a knitting event, which I'm going to speak about in the end of this video. So with that being said, let's start with my finished work, which is a plain Yoke Tee by LeKnit. Let's speak about the yarn first, and then I'll continue with the modification and the construction itself. Well, first I want to just mention, you see all of these stripes is because I dried my garment on the drying net, and unfortunately it left some marks, but I will steam it and it will be fine. I hope for it. So the yarn I'm using is Spanish yarn, completely 100% Spanish. I imagine it's also locally produced, which is Casasol, 100% bamboo. I think this is called like that, just bamboo yarn, and it comes in 200 grams balls. I bought 2 balls, which is 400, and I have a huge leftover. So I believe maybe I used 50 or 70 grams from these balls, and my entire garment should be weighing then 220, 230 grams. So this yarn is the same meterage to the recommended yarn. She's using Sandnes Garn Lana, which is also 100 meters per 50 grams, I believe. And unfortunately I could not meet gauge on 4mm needles, so I had to knit with 3.5, and the fabric was quite dense. I spoke about it in my previous podcasts, that I was quite concerned if the fabric will relax and open after blocking, and it did. I'm so happy that I did not use 4mm needles. First I had to then modify the garment because I would be completely off gauge. And second, then the gauge would open up even more and it would be too gapey for me. So the construction is completely knitted top down. You start with the basic cast on, you knit on smaller needles to then allow the fabric to roll naturally. And then you start doing the short rows back and forth, German short rows. It was very easy to follow, quite clear. And after that, actually, just to say, the German short rows in this specific yarn could be a bit tricky. Like you see here, I had to make a fix. I don't know if you can see. Because it's viscose and it's very slippery. So even though I tried my best to make it very tight, one of the German short rows was with a little hole, which I imagine not so visible with other types of yarn, but with silk and with viscose, it could be an issue. So if you choose similar yarn, be aware of that. So after the short rows, when you're done, you start increasing with the different rates for each portion of rows. So you do have to, when you increase, to count your stitches correctly so you don't mess up the rate of increases. But it's nothing complicated. Just, okay, when it's increased row, I focus and I'm like, okay, now I increase every 5th, or then every 6th, every 8th, every 9th stitch, and so on. After that, when you're done with the increasing for the yoke, you do a little bit of the raglan increases as well on both sides, front and the back, from 2 sides. You split for sleeves, you knit all the way down to desired length. You again switch to small needles to knit a few rows with smaller ones to then naturally roll up that edge. And the closing was a little bit tight because it's a normal cast off, but blocking fixed everything, and now it's not tensioning in or anything. It's just perfect thanks to the yarn as well. So then when you're done with the bottom, you pick up for the sleeves and you finish them in 5 centimeters or desired length, which is super simple, and I believe it's a very practical piece because I can wear it at home, I can go grocery shopping, I can wear it in the summer. The size I needed is double XS, which is the smallest size available, because I knew the viscose is going to grow a lot, both in the width and in the length. And luckily everything worked as predicted. It grew quite a lot. So basically my length was 40.5 centimeters, and after blocking is 45.5 or 47 even. I think something between 5 and 7 centimeters in length. And in the width, I think it's either stayed the same Oh no, 1 centimeter. It grew 1 centimeter in the width. Also the sleeves grew a little bit both in width and in the length. So that's why what I did, actually I did a few modifications. I knitted everything double access as instructed to the yoke, to the raglans. But then the raglan increases over here. I did more of them than recommended. So I think for the size double access is like 3 increases or so. And I did 6. So almost double more. And when I picked for the sleeves, I just had 54 stitches instead of 52, so I decreased over here right under the underarm as I usually do. You see, I picked 2 additional stitches from each side as I usually do, and then I decreased 1 more. So I picked 2 additional stitches from each side, which is 4 in total, and then I decreased 3 from each side. So I had 52 stitches for the sleeves, which is perfect for me. So what I did is I created smaller yoke and wider torso. I really love it. It's super drapey. It's a little bit heavy, but I really love it. And the gauge opened up, so everything worked out. I think I'll be repeating this garment in summer. It's very simple. I love how circular yoke looks on me. It was the first time in wearing and knitting circular yoke ever. And usually when I repeat the garments or even knit them first time, I ask myself, can I go and just buy it in the shop? And regarding this garment, no, I've never seen this in a shop. It's quite special. I don't know if it exactly looks hand knit, but it's quite special to me. I really love it. Alright, the next finished work is socks. The socks are for my mother. She's coming to visit me on 4th of December and she's going to stay here for 2 weeks. And she lives in Ukraine, which is quite cold. And winter in Ukraine is no joke. Sometimes they're without light and warmth for a few weeks. So it's very important to have something warm in the feet. And it will be so nice for her to enjoy the socks during the winter. So these are the socks. I really love them, you know. I think I will need the same one for myself. They're quite minimalistic, but you can still see some pattern going on and they're very feminine. So let me start with the yarn first and then the pattern. The yarn is Lana, which is a German brand, and I love German sock yarn. Most of it is very amazing. And I bought 100-gram balls. I needed socks that are not like very tall but still have some height or length, and this is what I have left. To be honest, I think it's enough for 2 small short socks or almost 2, like it's a lot. Regarding the knitting experience, the first thing is that the yarn is quite splitty. It is 4-ply yarn which is spun in a one direction, I believe, which makes it quite soft, but it is splitting. I don't mind it to be splitty, so it's fine for me, but just for you to be aware of. The second thing I didn't like is that it changes the thickness of the thread quite a lot. I notice also Regia, for example, have this type of things sometimes in some of their yarns, but this yarn had a lot of these type of issues. Sometimes the thread would be very thick and very puffy and nice, and sometimes it would be very thin, like from 1mm needles or so, which is not the best. But again, the yarn is quite cheap, so I don't expect anything perfect, right? So again, I'm saying for the price is perfect. So the way I found the pattern is very cute. I was in my YouTube studio, and usually if you're a YouTuber, you know what I mean, you see your followers list, subscribers list, and people who allow to see who they're subscribed to are going to appear in that list. And I see the name Dina Kozhanova, and I'm like, oh, that's Ukrainian name, I'm going to go and check her out. And I go to her channel and I see this beautiful video tutorial, like completely step-by-step video tutorial on these socks, and she actually knitted them with a similar color. So I fell in love with them and I repeated everything as she did in her tutorial. The tutorial is in Ukrainian, but is step by step from the cast on to cast off. She speaks about everything, being so proficient and detailed. And if you wish, you could just click the video, and I'll put this in the description box, put the subtitles, English translation subtitles, and just knit the socks after her, repeating the number of stitches and the instructions that she's giving. The heel construction is strong heel, which is the first time I'm knitting it, and I'm quite happy with how it looks. I quite like this straight line that crosses the heel. It looks very neat and strong comparing to German short row heel. So I'm quite happy, and if you're watching, thank you very much for the tutorial free on YouTube. It's always appreciated, so thank you very much. This is a gift knit for my friend Julia, for her daughter actually. And she had a baby in June, and the baby is turning 6 months quite soon, and I'm going to send it to the US. They live in the Key West. I intended to knit it for 1.5, 2 years old, because I don't know exact measurements of the baby. So I designed it all myself. So when it came to the yarn choice, after I drew the whole idea in my head, I was like, well, what am I supposed to knit with? Because she's living in the Key West and it's quite hot during the entire year. And the poor baby is going to sweat in the wool garment. And this is Katia Copito Soft, which has 155 meters per 50 grams. And this is 100% polyamide. Now, it doesn't feel like polyamide at all. Well, probably I don't work with polyamide at all, so I don't feel so much of it and so many variations. But it's so soft that cashmere, a brushed cashmere that I have in work in progress, feels rustic compared to that. Just imagine the softness. This is the color 21, and it looks like white pink. I have almost the whole ball left. I bought 2 balls. Each ball is 155 meters. And for this garment, I spent 1 ball and a third of the ball, I could say. I tried to find the pattern that I would like, but I was not so sure to buy any pattern for the baby, like a raglan pattern, because I knew this yarn is quite elastic. It doesn't have elastan in it, but if you look at the thread, it's quite bouncy. Not so much, but it does bounce. So my concern was that I may follow the pattern and it will be a disaster in the end, because the garment may shrink or grow. Like, I didn't know what to expect from this yarn, and I did all of the measurements and calculations myself. So what I did is that I started to Google what is the width, what is the diameter of a baby of a 1 year old, what is the length of the baby's arms of a 1 year old, and so on. And I started from the top down. I knitted the raglan down 11 centimeters here, and then I knitted down again 11 centimeters, actually 12, and also 12 centimeters for the arms. And I also added short rows flat in the mid back to raise the back a little bit, and the rest is done with 2x2 ribbing. So you see these 2 thick cords. It's not any cord, it's just that I started to pick up stitches on the wrong side, and that naturally created this bump. Since it's a very beautiful boucle type of yarn, it looks incredibly fluffy and cute. I have a transparent polyester thread, and it looks brilliant because you cannot see it at all. And I just worked the circles of the flowers all the way around, and I hope the baby is not going to take them out. I actually already tried, because I imagine the baby is going to be interested in, you know, taking them out, and it's quite hard. All right, let's move to my works in progress, which is only 2 objects, and 1 whip is inactive. I'll speak about it after. So the first one is a hat. This is a brioche hat on 2.75 millimeter needles. I am a fan of brioche, and if you've seen my previous podcast, you see how many hats I've already knit in brioche stitch. I've knit the whole cardigan in brioche. It's in podcast number 1, actually, if you want to watch. So I'm a huge fan of brioche stitch because it's super squishy. Look at this. I don't know if you can feel it, but this hat is incredible. And I knit it on purpose on 2.75 millimeter needles. First, because I quite like when the brioche stitch is knit on small needles, so it's not huge. It looks even more special and luxurious to me. And the second reason is because I want the hat to be quite warm, and I don't want the brioche stitch have these little holes that it may have in between of these knit stitches if the gauge is going to be a little bit open. So I'm quite happy with my choice. It's my own pattern, but I'll tell you what it is so you can just repeat if you already have some experience knitting brioche hats. So I picked up 88 stitches on 4.5 millimeter needles using German twisted cast on methods. Is my favorite cast on when I need flexibility and durability. The reason why the needle size is so much bigger for the cast on is because when you cast on, the stitches are small, and when you start to knit the brioche stitch, they grow a lot in width. So I had a lot of horrible experiences, painful experiences, when I cast on with the same needle size, half more, a little bit half more, quarter more, and more and more, and all of these times were too tight. So then I realized, okay, I just need to take double more. So this is almost double, right? So the main garment is knit on 2.75 and the cast on is in 4.5 millimeter needles, and in this case it's just perfect. So my head is 57 centimeters in diameter in the widest part, and I cast on 88 stitches. My gauge in brioche per 10 centimeters is 16 stitches. I just cast on in German twisted cast on 88 stitches and just knit all the way up. I do have to be careful with the way I knit the brioche. I mean, we all knit it in different ways. Somebody needs the English style, continental. Continental can have a lot of different ways. So if you're going to be knitting the brioche hat for the first time, I do suggest you to try in the round, to try it first. The way you knit and slip your stitches will make a difference and will make a little bit different look of the brioche. Practice and see which brioche way you like the most, and maybe only then knit the garment, because it does take time. But also at the same time, brioche stitch is quite wide in width and long in the length. So even though you move quite slow compared to stockinette, the stitch itself is quite big. So it kind of compensates the way you knit, because most people say that, oh, I don't like brioche because to create one knit stitch, like one V, you do 2 rows. But also I want to point out that it's very big stitch, right? So it's way bigger in size than stockinette stitch. So maybe it compensates for this effort. Scheepjes is a Dutch brand, so I went to the Google Translate, I put that word, and I listened how it sounds, and I swear to God, I cannot pronounce it. I mean, I tried, but I'm not going to replicate it. So let's call it Scheepjes, as we can see it in English. Metropolis, which is 75% extra fine merino wool and 25% nylon. I am becoming a fan of this yarn. Initially I bought this yarn for the socks. I wanted to knit for myself, but then I changed my mind and I decided to use it for the hat, because I feel bad of using this expensive yarn actually for the socks, and it's very soft, so I don't know how durable it is for wearing it. So the price of the yarn is on average $7.50 per ball, per 50 grams ball. Then I combined it with my huge cone, and you already seen that cone if you watch my podcast. This is a brushed cashmere on silk from the brand Cariaggi, and I have so much of it. It's very, very fluffy and very thin, so imagine if I have this amount of yarn, it's probably enough for many, many projects. So this is a 71% cashmere, 19% silk, and 10% elastan. Elastan creates a little bounce, and it's very useful, especially for the hat. I'm also using this for the sweater, and I'm not too concerned that it's going to shrink my garment, but it may shrink a little bit, because after the wash, elastan in yarn usually shrinks the fabric depending on the amount and the qualities, but usually like 10 to 30%. Depending, of course, if you use only the yarn itself with elastan or as an additional thread. I'm still fine with it, that I use it for my sweater, but still it's an experiment for me to see what's going to happen with this. If you notice, you may see this very gentle, super soft fluff from the cashmere, which will create an additional warmth, and this 10% elastan is going to shape the garment and hold it better during the years of wear. And my next work in progress is so small that I didn't even know if I should show it to you guys, but I do have to say something about the pattern, and that's why I'm going to show you what I have. So this is my whip. Quite big, right? Big work in progress. So this is a Hoodie Doo by Olena Sitalkina. This is a Ukrainian designer. So I want to say something about the pattern and then I'll speak about the yarn. I opened the pattern and it's insane. She's so smart. The whole description is so detailed, so professional, so well formatted. Everything is written, charted, everything is clarified. I'm going to need everything from her, since now the shaping is crazy. It's quite complex shaping, so it's not the need to just relax and watch Netflix. No, that you have to focus, you have to follow what you're doing. And the construction is a contiguous shoulder construction with a lot of shaping going on. With a lot of smart details in terms of the fit. When you just look at it, you think like, oh, that's just a minimalistic hoodie. But no, there's so much shaping and so much work behind it that I call it a piece of art. So the construction is a contiguous shoulder construction. For the reference, the Petite Knit has the terrazzo sweater in similar construction, but this one is way smarter. The thing I don't like about contiguous shoulder is that most of the times it creates kind of a pooling of the fabric, because you increase in every row and then you end up having too much fabric compared to the actual shoulder. So that creates this little bunching and little harmony. And I was thinking, okay, when I'm ever going to be knitting this type of construction again, I'll probably make sure that the yarn is not so thick, because the yarn is thick, then you have too much fabric and then you have all sorts of problems. This contiguous shoulder is different because the increases are spread all over. You have increases inside the shoulder, outside the shoulder. You have all sorts of shapings included, and you kind of see this line forming. I don't know if you can see here. But you don't have that bunching. And yeah, I didn't see any bunching of the samples of the knit. And I trust her 100% on everything, so I'm going to just keep on knitting. She also has a pattern in English, so you have to buy the pattern from the website. I'm going to link everything in the description box. And quite a few people already knit in English, and I believe it's a clear pattern if people love it so much. So go check her out. And if you are, as me, a fit nerd, that you really love when the garment fits perfectly, you have space for your bust, you have perfect space for your shoulders, nothing is folding, nothing is moving around your body, everything is just made for you, you may enjoy her patterns. So I already bought 4 patterns from her, and I only started to knit 1. So the yarn I chose is Tynn Gynt by Sandnes Garn, held together with alpaca Yoke Tee by Sandnes Garn as well. This is a 100% alpaca lace thread, which is extremely soft. I'm quite picky about alpaca. I feel some prickliness towards my neck, like the most sensitive zone, but I think I could wear it as a cardigan, or maybe like a little bit lower below my neckline. But it is extremely soft. I think most people will not find it scratchy. So if you were looking for additional thread to replace the mohair, this could be an option. And Tynn Gynt, most people are already aware of this yarn, is a 100% Norwegian wool. It's very tightly spun, and the stitch definition is insane. Like Tynn Gynt is becoming one of my favorite yarns, and I want to knit a lot of cardigans in this yarn. It's extremely durable. I wouldn't say it's a lightweight yarn, but I would say is very sturdy, durable piece that is going to stay in your wardrobe forever, and is going to hold the shape very well, even if you treat it not in the best way. So I have one more whip, and that is Inactive Whip, which is Braidy loop sweater by Other Loops, and since then I did not touch anything. So if you want to go and see all of the details and what actually happened to this garment that I have to now unravel most of it, you can go in my podcast number 3 and watch the video. I speak about there in detail, but it is my desirable project, and it is a sweater that I will be picking up soon, in addition to the future knits. That was it for my works in progress. And right now I want to show you a few sock yarns that I got as a gift from my friends, and also that I bought for myself. And then I will share with you my huge discovery with the Korean yarn. I have a lot of Korean yarn now, and I'm so happy about it. and then I will share about my knitting trip to Amsterdam. So let's begin with something I bought for myself recently. I wanted to buy a very special soft sock yarn for myself, but not hand dyed or not, I don't know, 30 euro per 100 grams, not something like that. And I've been wanting to try this yarn for a very long time. This is Cacao wool Edelweiss. So this is a sock yarn with the alpaca content in it. This is 65% wool, virgin wool, which feels quite soft, 25% polyamide and 10% alpaca. It feels almost as soft as that alpaca lace thread from Sandnes Garn, and I think it will be wonderful. I think the alpaca is going to fluff up and it will be so squishy and soft on my feet. So this is a very cold, dusty white color, 02. One ball is 4 euros something, and one ball consists of 25 grams. I bought 3 balls to make sure I have enough for 2 socks, and I actually appreciate when the sock yarn is sold in 25 grams. I think Katia also has, brand Katia has 25-gram balls, and you can avoid having leftovers. So if you want very short socks, you can maybe even make it with 50 grams of yarn only. Whenever I buy 100-gram balls, I always have huge leftovers, and then I'm thinking how to knit helical or whatever with this to not just have it in my stash. Then the next yarn is also sock yarn I bought in Barcelona, which is Rosario's Mia. It's very soft. It's so nice that I would also need a whole sweater in it. So this has 185 meters per 50 grams. So it is quite thick, thicker than we usually knit. So maybe it will be even suitable for 3mm needles, which is also perfect for the quicker knit or the gift knit. I would also knit with these hats, scarves, neck warmers, and all types of accessories like gloves as well, mittens. It has 30% polyamide and 70% merino wool. Color 07, dusty caramel, I would describe it like that. So I bought 3 balls of these, and it has 50 grams. The reason to that is that I want to knit socks for my cousin in this yarn, and the leftover I will exactly have 75 grams for my socks, and I hope this way I can avoid having leftovers. And the last sock yarn I want to show you is actually a gift from my friend Dina. We met in Tenerife before I left. We had a dinner and we exchanged the gifts, and I got extremely beautiful sock yarn from her. This is a Choppel wool Zauberball, crazy. So this is a superwash wool and 25% polyamide or polyester, and it feels quite soft. And I was quite surprised when I saw that it's superwash, because it doesn't feel like superwash at all. It feels woolly, a little bit rustic, but soft at the same time. And oh my god, it's so nice. I could knit myself a sweater in this, I swear. I don't like for the sweater a lot of color, of course, but with this texture, I mean, I would for sure knit something for myself. And it imitates the hand spun. If you can see here, you want to always look at it and try to figure out how the shades are combined. And I'm just so excited to see how it knits up and to see how the gradient is going to change eventually. So thank you, Inna, very much for this beautiful gift. I'm going to knit the socks and always think about you. Also, she gifted me Adi needles. I think it's 4mm needles. Yes, it's 4mm. They're cubical nails. For me, it's going to be a new experience, and whenever I have to knit with such size of the cord and such needle size, I will be definitely trying it. I never even tried Adi before. It's a completely new brand to me. But yeah, thank you very much, and I'm so excited. Alright, so should I now speak about the treasure? My gosh, so much excitement. This is illegal to be so excited about the yarn, but you guys understand. So a little pre-story before I speak about Korean yarn. So in summer I was in Barcelona, and I obviously went to the yarn shops, and I found a Nakyang yarn there. It was summer yarn, and I touched it and it was so weird. It was, oh my goodness. think it was a blend of linen and viscose and cotton, something like that. It was quite sturdy, very, very harsh yarn, but very smooth. And I started to Google about them. And I got quite sad because this yarn is in Korea based, it is produced in Korea, and I was like, okay, not possible probably to find in Europe. Then I went again to Barcelona in October, and I went again to the same yarn shop, and I found again that yarn, and I was like, I need that yarn, like no matter what. They didn't have already in stock much, they had like 2 balls left, and I thought to myself, if I have to order from Korea, I'm going to make it, like whatever. I just want to try Korean yarn because lately I am a huge fan of Korean and Japanese designers, and I'm already having some plans to knit some of them, and I have 2 videos on my channel with pattern roundups, and I suggest you watch if you haven't yet, to get inspired and to fall in love with Korean and Japanese designers. And I started to Google this yarn, and I found a representative in Europe of one of the Korean brands that are one of the biggest brands in Korea that a lot of their designers are knitting with, and overall is a popular yarn. So I immediately reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'm your fan, I want to try your yarns, and I was just so excited to find them. And they offered to gift me the yarn and try for my projects, which I got quite surprised. And of course I went immediately, and I spent like 2 days thinking, what am I going to exactly need, in which yarn, in which color. And I chose 2 big projects and 2 sock yarns. So I'm going to show you all right now. So this is the yarn. The first one is called I'm Wool 4. It is a worsted weight yarn, I believe, but I think it could be something between DK and Aran, depending on the gauge you're going to be knitting with. But the thread is quite thick and very, very squishy. It is 100% merino wool, and it has 175 meters per 100 grams. This is a color dusty lavender. It's incredibly complex, deep shade. The feeling of the yarn is so soft. Guys, I did not expect this type of spun in this type of gauge to be so soft. I'm so excited. I'm going to knit with this a design from a Korean designer. I'm going to put on the screen. I'm still looking for the pattern. Not looking, I'm waiting for the pattern to be released because it's now in the process of making. I'm not sure if it's even in testing yet. At first I wanted to knit another project from her, but then I saw this sweater that she is designing, and I already had this yarn in quite a big quantity. I have like 7 balls, and I was thinking, yes, I'm going to make this in this specific color, in this yarn, Korean design with the Korean yarn, and it's going to be a piece of art. They have also a fingering or sport weight yarn of I'm Wool. I think it's I'm Wool 2, I don't remember exactly. But now that I tried the thick version, I am for sure going to be buying their thinner version. They're based in Germany, so whenever you're ordering anything, it's going to arrive, at least in Europe, very quick. So what else may I have to say about this project? Yeah, I'm going to speak more in detail about the pattern itself that I'm going to be knitting in my knitting plans for winter. But this is I'm Wool 4 in the color Dusty Lavender that is waiting its cue to be knitted in the sweater. The next yarn I have for the entire project, that is a summer yarn that is going to be waiting until the springtime or so. I'm going to knit a blouse with this from a Korean designer. I'm going to put the pattern and the name on the screen. Incredible pattern. I'll probably speak about this in one of my roundups that I'm going to create later. But well, this is Asa Taesa from Nak Young Yarns as well, in the color 519. It's very, very interesting dusty cobalt blue color, I would say. On their website, it's also a little bit more dusty and a little bit less saturated than in real life. In real life, it's a little bit more saturated, but I love it so much. I never had anything in this color before, and I was hesitant between the beige color, which is very, very beautiful, like light wood color, the one I saw in Barcelona shop, and this one. And in the end I went for this one. And they have a lot of different dusty shades that I'm heavily in love with. I don't like very saturated colors. Dusty colors are my everything. Linen 70% and mercerized cotton 30%. So mercerized cotton is very shiny, smooth cotton. It's also very drapey and flowy. The only way for me to knit with the cotton is to knit with mercerized cotton because I love it. It's a little bit closer to viscose, but it's a bit more harsh than viscose. And linen, we all know how linen feels. So mercerized cotton kind of softens the linen and gives it a little bit of a drape, but at the same time you have a dry, sturdy feeling to it. And of course I'm very much interested how it's going to behave after the blocking, but right now I'm just so excited to try. And I checked a lot of items on Ravelry with this yarn, and I really love how it lines up in the garment. The meterage of this yarn is 277 meters per 100 grams, which is approximately 135 or 140 per 50 grams. So it is somewhere in between DK and a sport weight, I would say. I'm going to be knitting this probably on 4mm needles, which is a recommended needle size, which is 3 to 4mm, and the gauge is going to be a little bit open for the blouse. And then I wanted to pick 2 yarns for socks. But to be honest, after touching them, I don't want to knit socks with them. I want to knit a hat or something soft. So this is a sock yarn. It is called Slow Step. It is 75% merino and 25% nylon. And this is a color 108. It is very dusty mint, light mint color. It is extremely soft. It is softer than Metropolis, it is softer than Edelweiss that I just show you. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be knitting socks. And then I picked 2 balls, but then they said we usually put 1 more ball just in case. And now I have 3 balls. So I'll be probably needing some accessories for this, because this type of yarn for the socks is extremely soft. It's like, no. Is going to be not well to use it for the feet. It's too soft. And also have 3 balls in this very neutral gray. I wouldn't say it's cold or warm. It's quite neutral. So I have quite a lot of yarn also for the accessories, and I still haven't decided what I'm going to knit with this. But I am going to start knitting with this quite soon. So with that being said, let me speak about Amsterdam trip that is coming very soon. Actually, in 1 week I'm already going. Sherry from the Good Knits, she has actually her beautiful YouTube podcast as well that I'm watching. She's organizing the meetup with another person as well, where we're gonna just come all together in a beautiful cafe and knit all together. For me, it's going to be an opportunity to meet new people, hopefully maybe even people that I'm seeing here online in the knitting community. I always appreciate it, you know, when it comes to face-to-face interaction. I feel like nowadays is becoming a special thing, counting the fact that we're all online and we're kind of all communicating. I have a lot of beautiful knitting friends already here on YouTube and Instagram, but again, I'm really miss that live face-to-face interaction, and it's a completely different experience. By the way, the event is happening 1st of December at 10:30 a.m. I believe, so if you want to join and maybe come and say hi, even if you don't have much time, it would be so nice. Another good news that I'm coming with my friend Dina from Tenerife. I also invited her and say, hey, let's go, it's going to be fun. And she booked tickets, I think on the next day or so. It's so amazing, because I thought we were never going to see each other anymore, and we're gonna see each other just in 1 month after I left Tenerife. Thank you very much again for being here, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video. Sweaters with the sock yarn.